back to another edition of Talking SANFL. My name is Andrew Hayes. This is Daniel Menzel. Let's talk about the round that was, and that is round 14. We're really getting to the pointy end of the season. We might jump straight into it with our iPerform insights, scores and ladders. North taking on Norwood. This was the first game that we're going to talk about, and this was close, as we probably expected, 48-40 in favour of the Roosters.
Yeah, it was. It was a close game. A really important win for the Roosters because it keeps them in that fifth position on the ladder, which we'll get to shortly. But for Norwood, again, just struggling to score at the moment. They're last in offence this season, and I feel like that loss to the Eagles a couple of weeks ago just has really dented their season, and now finals is too far.
We might speak about this a little bit more in depth later on, but the Bays taking on West, you would assume that's probably a comfortable win for the Bays, but they got the job done, but it wasn't easy.
No, and it wasn't pretty either. It was horrific conditions there, over 270 tackles in that game. Glenelg able to get an important win, but West are playing some really good footy at the moment.
The Dogs are keeping their finals hopes alive. They're just sort of flirting with the top five. A nice little win over South.
Really nice win. They did what they've been doing at home all season, the Dogs. They've been ultra impressive there. They've only dropped the one game at home this season, and a good win, but South Adelaide, it's been a very disappointing year for them.
Maybe the biggest win of the round, and maybe a little bit surprising as well, was Port Adelaide taking on Sturt. Port Adelaide, pretty solidly comfortable winners there.
Yeah, they were. I tipped this one last week, which I needed to get to pull back, and we'll get into tips later on. You've got a couple on me at the moment, but Port playing some really good footy, 4 wins on the trot now. So their form stacks up as good as anyone in the competition, and Sturt just a little hiccup there.
And to round out round 14, the Eagles, really bad loss to the Crows.
Yeah, it was, because you look at that and go, hey, the Crows are probably the best team in the comp at the moment, the way they're playing. But on the weekend, their lineup didn't have the likes of Schoenberg, Matt Crouch, Haitley, Cook, and Nankervis as well. So it was a much more weakened Adelaide side, but they still were far too dominant for the Eagles.
Let's talk about the ladder. After 14 rounds, the top 5 is Glenelg, Sturt, Adelaide, Port and North. Central's flirting with the top 5 as well. They're very much in touch. But it would seem right now it's a 3-horse race. Yeah,
it would. However, which way are you going with that? Because Port's won 4 in a row, so I don't think you can rule them out. At the moment, I think Port and Adelaide's form stacks up as well as any, but again, we know that it's going to be dependent on what happens in the AFL lineup. I think that it's an interesting battle around 5th position. North Adelaide and Central's at the moment equal on points, a couple of big games if the Dogs are going to make finals this year. But North Adelaide's starting to get their players back, look like they should be good enough to play finals.
It's a really good point you make in terms of the AFL sides, Port Adelaide and Adelaide as well. Wouldn't call it a crisis, but smashed the last few days with injury is the Crows. So obviously that affects the SANFL side. And Port Adelaide, Willie Rioli will come back. There'll be a few more additions towards the end of the year. So always depends what's happening with the AFL side. But right now, Adelaide's going to have a few players plucked from the state side.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they can handle those changes in their lineup. But it's going to be a great showdown this weekend between the Crows and the Power.
Let's talk about our SANFL summary. Thanks to Rejuvenate Massage and Fitness. The guys they do outstanding work. And we'll talk about our moment of the week. The Crows v the Eagles, led by Lachie Gallant with 6 goals. This was a much bigger win than I think most people predicted. Yeah,
it was. And I think that the Eagles went into this going, we might be a sneaky chance in this one. And the game was over at half time. It was 11 goals 5, 71 to 1 goal 5, 11 at half time. Crows just came out of the blocks and put the Eagles boys away, and it was a massive thumping in the end. And the Crows, what's impressing me is they're bringing other players in, and you wouldn't expect them to still have the same impact, but they are playing some really good footy no matter which player is in that side.
Talking point of the week, geez, the Bloods nearly pulled off an absolute ripper.
They did. A 10-point loss in the end. You look at the score, 44-34, and you think, yeah, it was a close game. Well, they were up 4 goals to 1 at half time, and they were in front at 3/4 time as well. So another game where they've been in front or in the game and just haven't quite won. And I feel like in talking with a few people, Adam Hartlett's starting to touch on it now a little bit at West, that guys, it's great that we're competing, but we don't have that winning culture yet. Let's not be happy with these close losses. Let's try and shift that so that we actually can get the wins against these good teams.
All right, let's talk about our stat of the week and take us through this dynamic trio that's happening at Stratorama Oval in 3 really good forwards, and they've been together now for a few years at the base.
They have, and continuity is really key. And we put this up on the screen here with the statistic here of the leading goal kickers in the Ken Farmer. Hosey on 40, McBain on 37. That's going to be a great battle between the two of them. Josh Hones 31 in third, but Luke Reynolds 29 has had a sensational year as well. And when you've got 3 of the top 4 goal kickers in the league, it's no surprise that they are on top and the favourite to win the whole thing this year, because if you stop Hosey, McBain pops up, and even Reynolds this year, whose form of the last couple of seasons probably has been down on what it was a few years ago. Well, he's back this year, so it's massive for that forward line, and they are going to be as potent as any come September at Adelaide Oval.
Don't need to tell you, men's, how much of an elite club the Ken Farmer medal club is, but one man in particular, Lee McBain, who has 3 medals. Lockie Hosey leads right now, and who knows? I mean, he's capable of kicking 10 or 12 in a game if he really gets on fire. It's going to be a nice race to the finish, like you said. But McBain pulled it off this year. He becomes a 4-time Ken Farmer medalist.
Yep.
That's amongst the SANFL grades.
100%. He already is amongst the SANFL grades with 3. He's done a lot for the SANFL. He's been the state captain. He's played in numerous state games. He has had an outstanding SANFL career, and it's probably underrated. It's probably one of those ones that you don't realise it until he's finished playing. But to win 4 Ken Farmers would be absolutely incredible.
All right, let's go through our top sports tips and predictions. It's not a competition, but if we were keeping score and if you were interested, it's a 2-point difference in favour of myself. It's not a big deal though. It's not a competitive thing.
No, you're right. It's not competitive at all, and so I'll definitely tip every same tip as you in this one here. But look, I got 1 back last week. You pulled 3 in front, which is the greatest lead you had so far throughout the season. So I'm going to need to make some bold calls this week. So we'll start with the Sturt and Eagles matchup. We'll alternate here. So first game of the round, I'm going to go smart, go with my head rather than my heart here, and I'm going to pick the Double Blues at home. Yeah,
I hope you don't expect me to always go the opposite if you're going first. Because there's no reason, unfortunately, and I love the Eagles, but there's no reason why you would pick the Eagles at the moment in a contest like that, particularly with Sturt. Geez, they'll be looking to bounce back after last weekend, so I'm going Sturt as well.
Sturt as well. Okay, so we will alternate. So you're going to go first on this one, which is Adelaide versus Port Adelaide, the showdown. This is going to be arguably the best showdown in recent memory in terms of the sides being on a similar level.
Yep.
Port Adelaide are now very competitive, which they haven't been in recent years. So which way would you like to go with this?
Always dictated by what the AFL sides do, and what we do know is that no Isaac Rankin, no Nick Murray, they need to make some changes at the top level, which means for the Crows, they could lose a key defender. They could lose Lockie Dick Gallant, who was on fire on the weekend. There's a bunch of players who could go up for AFL duty. So because of that, I'm going to say Port Adelaide wins the SANFL showdown.
Wow, okay, Port Adelaide is the pick there. I feel like Adelaide might just be the favourites going into this one. I am not going to go with this, but I would not be surprised if this is a draw, this game. I haven't picked one this year.
Are you picking a draw?
I would not go the draw. I'm going to go Adelaide. I think it's going to be very, very close. I think it'll be under a goal, but I'm going to pick Adelaide in this one. North versus Glenelg. Now, again, you say it every week, how can you tip against Glenelg? Their form the last 2 weeks hasn't been as good as it has been throughout the season. They've lost to Adelaide and then just fell over the line against West. North's form's starting to come good. Be a brave man to tip against Glenelg. I'm not going to do that. What would you like to do?
I'm going to go with Glenelg. There's no reason why you would ever tip against Glenelg. Even with a result like last weekend, it was torrential conditions, like you said. So, and that evens up all sorts of contests. I'm not sure what the weather's supposed to do this weekend, but Glenelg's one of those sides who, even if they're going through a bit of a slump, they still find a way to win, and that's what the really, really good sides do. And I would expect them to probably bounce back to their pre-last sort of few weeks form this weekend.
Be interesting because Darren Reeves goes up against his former club, which they absolutely nailed last time. So he coached really well against his former club. We'll see how they go in this one. Norwood takes on Centrals at the Parade. We know that Centrals' form away from home has been extremely poor this year. They've been so good at home. I think that's going to continue. I think Norwood, although they've been patchy of late, will get a win at the Parade. Which way would you like to go?
Yeah, I want to disagree with you, and you know I love tipping Centrals in any sort of opportunity, but I'm going to go with Norwood as well. They've just been, there's a lot of games where they threaten, they're showing some of that form from last year, It's just a completely different world. It's as different at the Parade as it is at the Ponderosa.
At the Ponderosa.
Different dimension, different everything. So I'm going to back in Nord. I think it'll be nice and close, but Centrals need this to stay in touch with the top 5, but I don't think they'll get a win this weekend.
Yeah, they do. And South versus West is the last game of the round. This is down at Flinders University Stadium, which you would say usually favours South Adelaide, but their form at home this year has been extremely poor. They have been blown out of the water in 3 of their past 4 games there at the start of games. So which direction would you like to go here? South versus West? This is a hard tip.
This is a hard tip, and thank you for letting me go in first, because I think I know which way you were going to go. I'm going to tip Westies.
Yes.
Westies are on the edge of, I think they've still got a few more wins left in the season. They're on the edge of a big scalp. This wouldn't be as big a scalp as it was against Glenelg last week, but I've got the Bloods. You?
I was probably going to go in that direction, but as you said, it's not an important tipping race that we've got on here. I will tip South Adelaide and hope that I can at least get one of the 2 differences we have there in our tips for this weekend. But now it's time to head to Hazy's Multi.
All right, welcome to the time of the week where you just make some easy money. From last week onwards, that is. I think it was a multi last week.
Oh, I mean, Top Sport getting around us, and we're having some success as well, which they'd be happy with as well. And get around Top Sport for all your best markets and best odds on the SANFL footy. Which way would you like to go this week? Yes,
all right. So we'll go another 3-leg multi this time. So I'm going to say that your safe bet this time will be Sturt over the Eagles. That's a pretty stock standard choice. The next one I'm going to say, which will pretty standard choice, will be Glenelg over North. And here's your value for money. I've got Port over Adelaide.
Okay, so you go in with Sturt, Port and Glenelg there in the multi. The showdown is the big one for mine, and it will show that with the odds as well. That will be the one if we can get up and go back to back in the multi. We haven't done that in a long time.
It's just an easy opportunity to make some money responsibly, of course.
So let's see how we go this weekend with the multi and how all the teams go this weekend in round 15.